welcome back to REDX, everybody. Here is the question that we are getting from just about everyone. We're getting it from clients. We're getting it from people who aren't clients. We're getting it from partners and coaches and trainers and analysts. What does prospecting look like in 2025, Curtis?
Yeah, there's a lot to that question. I think depending on who's asking the question, right? Just for context for people watching, there's a lot of questions around TCPA. There's a lot of questions around what the market is going to be doing and what does that look like for people who have traditionally looked to prospecting as a major source of their business. Those are good questions to be asking because there is a lot going on. There's a lot of misinformation, and there's certainly a tremendous amount of fear mongering in our industry around TCPA. So prospecting 2025 looks the same as it always has in that there are lists of people that are high intent leads is what we call them. High intent, meaning they are going to do something in real estate in the next 30 to 90 days, right? These are your for sale by owners. They're already trying to sell their home. The expired listings that we've got some fantastic data if people haven't watched some of our other videos around the data of what happens when somebody expires and how many people are going to expire right now in the beginning of the year. How many of those people will relist? It's a tremendous amount. You know, the headline is there's $400 million in commissions for properties that go off the market in the first week of January of people who are going to relist with a new agent or their current agent and a whole bunch of stats on that. There's a huge opportunity of high intent people, high intent homeowners that are going to relist. And when people say prospecting, they automatically go to the phone call, cold calling, which is what is going to be somewhat different in 2025 from previous years. But what's the same is you have people who really want to do something in real estate. And we now have to go and connect with them to interview for the job of being their real estate agent.
I mean, prospecting is at REDX, we talk about prospecting as picking up the phone and using different tools, whether that's social media or mailers or going out and knocking on the door and finding people that you don't know and turning them into people that you do know, right? Like that's how we define that.
Yeah. Looking for gold. That's where the
term comes from,
yeah.
Right? And there's a huge amount of people out there that I think when they hear the word prospecting, they go, that's cold calling, right? And I think that the thing that people need to understand for 2025 is that cold calling is just a piece of a much bigger puzzle that people really need to be aware of, the different ways to communicate with people. So what are those things that people need to be considering for 2025?
Yeah.
More than just picking up the phone, because it's not dead.
No, the phone is not dead. And there's a lot of confusion around that. You know, there's been some lawsuits in our space around TCPA. I think I'm not saying you should ignore those things. You absolutely should be compliant to TCPA. But there is still compliant ways to use the telephone as a medium to reach out to people and connect with them. You just have to do it within the boundaries that are now set. And some of the new requirements, are mostly around lead generation companies, not around your lead generation efforts. If you think of it, say, I'm going to take control of my own lead generation, my own business, now all of a sudden TCPA may not be relevant depending on what mediums and what sources you want to use. So we could talk more about TCPA, but I would just Google it and talk to your broker because there's still a lot of ways that you can use the telephone to reach out and connect with people that you don't know. But beyond the telephone, just think of every way that people are communicating. In fact, at lunch today, we were talking about, I was considering moving away from iPhone. And one of my arguments was, well, before iMessage and the phone were my primary sources of communication. But now I've got Marco Polo, which is a video app, and I use Telegram quite a bit. We use Slack internally for our company. I'm actively using 5 different communication tools on my phone. And depending on who or what group I'm communicating with, I'm using a different app. Well, if that's the case for me, it's pretty much the case for everybody else, especially if you look at buying demographics of the younger millennials, Gen Z, who are now, the up and coming buying and selling demographic. they're using tons of different communication tools, not just the phone. So how are you reaching out to them on social media? How are you reaching out to them through, Meta's Messenger, right? Or Instagram, send them a DM. And that's just one of many, right? Some recent data came out on postcards. Postcards are the most consumed medium right now, even greater than text message. So even if somebody's grabbing that mail to throw it into the garbage, you're 100% consumption of seeing that, like exposure, not consumption, exposure. And so postcards are coming back in a big way. And if you look at some of what the experts are saying about the younger generation and postcards and mail, is that they're so stoked to get a personalized, letter or mail or postcard in the mail that your consumption rate is also up. Like they're actually consuming what's on the postcard. So if you look at different communication methods, mailing and postcards, and you look at social media as probably the number one thing that we're going to be talking about this year is how to leverage social media for a target audience to be able to meet people that you don't know. And again, going full circle, if you can do that with an audience of high intent prospects, people who are going to do something in real estate, well, then that's what it looks like in 2025.
If I had to sum up what you're saying, is about enhancing your prospecting through other marketing efforts. Because as we've established, the phone isn't dead. That in fact, I would argue that the phone is still the most cost and time effective tool that you have. But as you mentioned, you've got to play within the boundaries that TCPA sets.
Yeah.
But when you've got a message on social media that's relevant for the right audience, and when you're communicating with people through physical mailers, which I've been telling people for months now, the mailbox is so hot.
Yeah.
Right? Like physical mail is so hot right now. Still getting out there and knocking on doors, still getting out there in the community and being involved in the community efforts, your client events, all of these different things that you're doing, that's what enhances the prospecting efforts. Yeah. So when you're on the phone and you're having those conversations, people are going, man, I've seen this guy's videos on Instagram, or I know this guy from this local Facebook group that I'm a part of, or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I think there's digital prospecting, which could mean a variety of different things. It's not just ads that you're putting out there. It's your organic social media that you still can target to a custom audience. So you could take all of the for sale by owners in your market, and you could have videos that are telling people how to get your home ready for sale, or how to stage your home in a way that buyers are attracted to. Content that's relevant to somebody in that stage, and you're building a brand and reputation with them, is a big part of social media. But another part of social media is just the active communicating and having conversations through that medium, meaning join every community Facebook group that you can find. Join your local chamber of commerce. And every time someone is talking, and I'm not even saying jump in there with an advertisement piece like, hey, I'm a real estate agent, when can we meet? It's about putting yourself out there, putting your name out there. You'd be shocked at how many people, when you comment on something they click on your profile link. So if your profile link then talks about you being a real estate agent and talks about your expertise in certain areas of real estate, that is a way that starts to create conversations of meeting people that you don't know, getting to know them, so that when they are ready to transact, that comes to fruition. Now, if you couple that with the targeting of high intent prospects, now all of a sudden you're fishing. You're not hunting or farming like it used to be. Those two mediums, you're more fishing. You have content out there. You have things out there that are attracting people to what they need, so that they're reaching out to you in a way as well.
Yeah, I had a really interesting experience this morning where I put a post out on Facebook. It was about skiing, and somebody who I'm connected with on Facebook commented on there. And so we engaged, and we were kind of commenting back and forth. And then at the same time, he texted me, and we had a different conversation going on text as we did on Facebook. And in text, he was inviting me to a professional event, right? He's saying, hey, I'd love for you to come attend this and be present. And as we're talking about this, I'm going, the different channels of communication are crucial. Yeah. Because if I hadn't gone and put something out about one of my hobbies, he probably wouldn't have commented. We wouldn't have engaged in a conversation here. And he definitely wouldn't have sent me a text message out of the blue to be like, hey, come attend this event. It's that kind of multi-pronged approach that matters to to finding people that you don't know
Yeah.
and turning them into people that you do know.
For me, this marketing is my background, and this is marketing. It's who is your audience, and what is the message to the right audience on the right platform at the right time, and as it's not just real estate, in every aspect of business right now, people have to up their marketing game because attention is being robbed by so much out there. We're just 100% of everyone's ADD because we are on so many platforms. There's so much advertising. There's so much distraction in the world that only highly relevant messages make it through the filter into our brain to pay attention to, right? Highly important, highly relevant things that are going on. And so when you know your audience and you know where they're hanging out, and then you start to implement, the multi-pronged approach, your chances of one of those things being really relevant to initiate the conversation drastically increases. We did a study years ago, and we've repeated that study over and over. And two stats, one only because I thought of it earlier, was when you said door knocking, it was 60% of agents that make 250 grand or more a year still knock on doors, which is mind blowing, right? That was one as a tangent there. But the other stat was the high producing agents, people who made over 250,000 a year in GCI had at least, and I can't remember exactly, but it was like 3.6 was the average, I think, different ways of going after the same lead or the same audience. So even from when we first started doing that study, well, I bet it's almost been a decade since
I think the first time we did it was 2011.
Yeah.
2012, somewhere in there. It's been more than 10 years.
We're getting old. Yeah. So, and we've repeated that because it's fascinating, and there, some trends have changed, but what hasn't changed is high producing agents have even more methods of going after the same people because they know, like, if I've got 3 or 4 lines in the water going after the same thing, that my chances of having them do that. So yeah, it's never just been about the phone. As things change, so does you have to adapt to the way that regulations or compliance is changing, because those dang marketers are going to ruin everything. So ultimately, this is why REDX platform has adapted and changed so much, is that it's not just about calling. It's not just about the data. It's not just about a dialer, but it's about really good team functionality, and it's about really good social media integrations and tools. And it's about postcards and mailers, and it's about mapping features and door knocking and other data and insights to make your message relevant on whatever marketing platform you're using. It's not just a data dialer platform. It is a marketing platform that you can use within, both the compliance, but in a way that marketing allows you to connect with high intent prospects compliantly so that you can get to know them, so that you can list their home. There's different parameters around the phone. They're just like there's different parameters about Facebook. I have one thing to say about, even that. When I first started doing Facebook advertising, we had come up with a product because I was helping agents do this. So if Mike Reese is out there listening, we used to do this. You could take an individual whose home expired, you grab the Google photo of their home, like the street view, and we would create a Facebook ad because you could target a single person with an ad. And we would say, your home came off the market today. That didn't last very long because Facebook was like, we're not going to allow this anymore. Well, it doesn't mean you go, well, never going to use Facebook again because they just changed some of the rules around how I can use it. You just adapt and you keep using it. So there are some different rules and regulations around the phone, but the phone is within the parameters. There's still a tremendous amount of what you can do to help your business move forward.
Curtis, thank you. Prospecting 2025 is certainly at the top of our radar. We're keeping an eye on things. If you guys have comments, leave them below. We'd love to hear what you guys think about what prospecting will look like in 2025, and we will see you next time. Happy prospecting.